Experience a progressive lens engineered with AI from Essilor, powered by individual measurements of your visual behavior. A lens personalized to you by an Essilor expert. Discover Verilux XR Track and enjoy instantly sharp vision in motion and seamless transitions from near to far. Find your local Essilor expert today at Essilor.com.
You guys, I just found the most incredible Mother's Day gift. It's called Goldbelly. Goldbelly is this amazing site where you can get the most iconic foods from restaurants all across the U.S., shipped anywhere in the country for free in time for Mother's Day. We're talking cakes from Ina Garten and Martha Stewart, Magnolia Bakery's famous banana pudding, and New York bagel brunches. Make Mother's Day perfect with Goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code MOM. That's Goldbelly.com, promo code MOM.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome, my friends, to the Monday edition of Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. If you would like to be on the program this afternoon, 800-848-9222 is how you reach us, 800-848-9222. Of course, there is one story that is at the top of the news, regardless of where you are in this world of ours. Well, most places in the world. That is the death of Pope Francis, who passed away in Rome at the Vatican, 7:35 a.m. this morning. The accolades for this pope are pouring in from all over the world. Of course, many of the voices of his critics are muted today, and there were many. But overall, this pope is being remembered as charismatic, as someone who showed a great deal of compassion for people that are, quote, unquote, marginalized. You can look in the New York Times, Washington Post, all the major publications around America, including even the local ones in New York, the Daily News, Pope Francis, the charismatic and conciliatory Argentinian who moved to liberalize the Roman Catholic Church, dramatically reorienting the papacy's posture toward homosexuality and modestly expanding the role of women at Mass, died early Monday, hours after making his last public appearance, Easter Sunday. He was 88. Of course, there are many, many people noting that, well, I read he couldn't have choreographed this better. It couldn't have been choreographed better with his passing coming as Easter season 2025 wrapped up. He taught us to live the values of the gospel with faithfulness, courage, and universal love, especially for the poorest and marginalized, is one of the remarks from Cardinal Kevin Farrell. J.D. Vance, of course, was present in Rome in one of his last public appearances. So I would love to know what you thought about this Pope, what your feelings are when we take calls, and we may take calls earlier than normal today. Cardinal Timothy Dolan, the Archbishop of New York, remembered Pope Francis at St. Patrick's Cathedral. We can never choreograph our own birth or death, can we? That's always in God's hands. But he said, if you could choreograph it, you couldn't choreograph it any better than what happened. The UN General Secretary Antonio Gutierrez offered his condolences to Catholics, lauded Pope Francis as a messenger of hope, humility, and humanity. Gutierrez added that Pope Francis had left a legacy of faith, service, and compassion for all, especially those left on the margins of life or trapped, by the horrors of conflict. Donald Trump, President of these United States of America, spoke ahead of the White House Easter egg roll today, said he had ordered flags around this country at half-staff in honor of Pope Francis. He was a good man, Trump said. There are many guesses of what is coming next for the Catholic Church. One of the analyses that I read of the many said this is a crossroads for the church, whether it will find its next pope to be a person that continues the legacy of Pope Francis, or whether it will return to a more conservative viewpoint. There's no question that this Pope made an impact, had an impact. I think one of the things that, and I am not a person that believes in criticizing or using the period of even people that are not in the limelight as much as the Pope was. I'm not a person that believes that we should use the occasion of someone's death to heap all kind of negative energy. But I will say that I found some of the Pope's remarks about, especially when it concerned migration, to be a little bit troubling. Not a little bit, a lot troubling, frankly. And there's no way that I can downplay that. And you hear it today in some of the other news stories that are going on. I have a soundbite that we will get to from MSNBC, Mika Brzezinski, of course, using the passing of the Pope in connection with another story that is at the top of the news here in America, that this continued absurd quest to ignore everything that can be ignored and make Kilmar Abrego Garcia some kind of national hero or an international hero. You have Democrats running down to El Salvador for their follow-up photo ops, hoping that some of the limelight that Van Hollen from Maryland got, Senator Van Hollen, will shine on them too. There's a delegation of 4 that at least 4 Congress people, including this one very liberal congresswoman from Oregon who's down there to see whether they can garner some attention. Van Hollen was all over the news this week and taking his victory lap on liberal outlets. It was this weekend, and we have that bite too we'll share with you, that we learn who paid for the trip, of course. No surprise. But that aside, one of the things that I fear is that we're at an age where standing for what is right, what used to be accepted as universally right, is now in question. It is the left that has taken this world into a state of moral relativism. Everything's relative. What used to be right, well, maybe it's not so much right. This goes on from everything through this absurd reality that we live in now, where people believe that biology isn't biology, And an entire political movement has now been built around the idea that what's right, what is known to be factual, is not, in fact, factual at all. And the same thing has happened with things that many of us believed to be right. Well, maybe you're wrong. What do I mean? I mean the simple notion that unless a law is highly immoral, that the laws of a nation should be followed. That used to be just without question. Now it's convenient to bend and shape the law to meet your political objectives. I'm speaking about illegal immigration. Countries, all countries, where it was assumed had the right to decide who would enter their country, who would not. America, no different than any other country. The right to decide who comes in your country, who legally is permitted in the country. And it used to be that the church, be it the Catholic Church, be it churches in the Protestant world, be it institutions, spiritual institutions, were pretty consistent with the idea that the laws of a nation, assuming, again, we're not assuming that unjust laws, things that are clearly immoral, but within the bounds of morality, that people should abide by the laws of their country. And this was taught in church. It was taught in all churches. It was taught to respect the laws of your land. That's no longer the case. And when you have leadership of the church helping to blur the lines, it certainly makes it a little bit more difficult for a society, right, wrong, whatever. That's one of the consequences, I think, that has happened with this papacy. And again, I don't want to spend all day trying to negate the good works, the good man that Pope Francis was. There's no question that Pope Francis was a good man. There's no question the fact that he came from a Jesuit background. There's no question that he was strongly convicted with his beliefs. There's no question that the Pope tried to help the poor, that he tried to do his best to be the best Pope he could be as he saw it. And I do not feel myself, by the way, in any kind of spiritual framework that I would criticize him and say, well, the Pope was wrong. I'm not going there. I'm noticing and trying to point out things that I observed that troubled me during his papacy. And it didn't just go to political issues like, look, when the church, I'm talking about the institutions, when the institutions that are the underpinning of morality in a society start to break down, then you see it reflected through all of society. That is my point. 800-8489. I'm going way over time, and I fear I'm not articulating this exactly the way I want to. I am. I'm trying to be very careful. Because again, I don't want to use the occasion of the Pope's death to try to heap scorn or to try to say or put negative energy in the air. I want to recognize his greatness, and he was great. James Golden, 800-848-9222 is how you reach us. We're coming back.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
home means something different to everyone. But with Rocket Mortgage, home can mean even more. It can mean a college education, taming your high-interest debt, even a renovation. We've made it easier than ever to use your home equity. That home you worked so hard for, now it can work hard for you. Call 800-4ROCKET or visit rocket.com to find out more.
Rocket Mortgage, LLC, licensed in all 50 states, and MLSConsumerAccess.org, number 3030.
This episode is brought to you by Factor. Optimize your nutrition this year with Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal service. Factor's fresh, never-frozen meals are dietitian-approved, ready to eat in just 2 minutes. Choose from 40 weekly options across 8 dietary preferences like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Eat smarter at factormeals.com/listen50 and use code LISTEN50 for 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Factormeals.com/listen50, code LISTEN50. T's and C's apply.
What makes a great pair of glasses? At Warby Parker, it's all the invisible extras without the extra cost. Their designer quality frames start at $95, including prescription lenses, plus scratch-resistant, smudge-resistant, and anti-reflective coatings, and UV protection, and free adjustments for life. To find your next pair of glasses, sunglasses, or contact lenses, or to find the Warby Parker store nearest you, head over to warbyparker.com. That's warbyparker.com.
Last week was our first playoff game, and my plaque psoriasis was so itchy under all my gear. Sometimes just thinking about scratching could take me out of the moment. And then my doctor told me I could get clearer skin with a pill called Otezla.
Otezla apremilast is a prescription medicine used to treat adult patients with plaque psoriasis for whom phototherapy or systemic therapy is appropriate. Otezla can help you get clearer skin after just 4 months.
Okay, ready for the next game. Talking to my doctor about a pill was a total game changer.
Don't use Otezla if you're allergic to it. Get medical help right away if you have trouble breathing or swallowing, swelling of the face, lips, tongue, throat, or arms. Severe diarrhea, nausea or vomiting, depression, suicidal thoughts, or weight loss can happen. Tell your doctor if any of these occur and if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts. Live in the moment. Ask your doctor about Otezla. Call 1-8444-OTEZLA or visit Otezla.com for prescribing info about cost, and more.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Who did pay for this trip?
This was an officially cleared, congressional trip, cleared on a bipartisan basis. Yes, like every other trip.
Yeah. That's who paid for this ongoing photo op, Margaritaville in El Salvador with Chris Holland, as Democrats trip all over themselves to go down there to prove to their fellow Democrats that they are people of compassion, that Democrats love criminals. They are the advocates of the criminal class. And we are talking about the unrepentant criminals. We're talking about people that hurt, maim, kill, rape, murder, pillage, whatever they are. The Democrats find these people and elevate them to heroes. That is what Chris Holland is doing. That's what these Democrats that are down in El Salvador are doing right now. When we come back from the next break, we're going to visit a church service in Tampa, Florida. No, I'm sorry, St. Petersburg. Same difference. And folks, liberals are the unrepentant advocates for the unrepentant criminal class. That's who they are. You find a criminal, they will wave the flag and make that person a hero and try to elevate that person to hero. It's time and time again. We're coming back. James Golden, your calls too at 800-848-9222. Whatever you do, do not leave. Do not go away.
ChatGPT Plus is free for college students through May. Here's the thing. You've got a lot to do between now and then. Studying for finals, writing papers, trying to keep your life on track. And ChatGPT can help with all of it. It can quiz you for your econ exam, make a study guide from your French notes, plan out your meals and study breaks. It can get really specific on how you like to learn. It can even help you come up with ways to stop procrastinating. So from now until summer break, take advantage of all the ways ChatGPT can make your life easier. Restrictions apply.
That moment when you realize your skincare is actually working. That's Rodan & Fields, the #1 female dermatologist-founded skincare brand in the U.S. Designed by 2 dermatologists who don't just know women's skin, they know how to formulate for it. Rodan & Fields, love what you see. Tap the banner or visit rodanandfields.com/Spotify to get your exclusive welcome offer.
Parents of tweens, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. 3 couples, 4 vacations, a lot to unpack. Watch The 4 Seasons, a new series starring comedy favorites Tina Fey, Steve Carell, Will Forte, Coleman Domingo, and more in a hilarious and heartfelt love letter to long-term relationships. Based on the original Alan Alda film. Watch The 4 Seasons, streaming now only on Netflix.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Neglected.
And I think that's not the question. I think it's about the mother being unable to understand why you would spend so much time and energy for this person who was not in your state or in the country legally, at which time she felt like you didn't have the same concern about her daughter and her family.
I did have concern. I have concern. My heart goes out to every Maryland family that is the victim of violence, regardless of the perpetrator.
Lie. Okay, fine. That's Chris Van Hollen asking the question, you're running down to El Salvador to see about this criminal. Well, they don't call him a criminal. This person that's an illegal alien. How about the woman whose daughter was brutally murdered by an illegal alien? You didn't go to see her. You didn't do anything with that. Oh, well, I do have concern. My heart goes out. Well, your ass went out to El Salvador, but your ass couldn't go 10 minutes to go see this woman in your own state. These people, I'm telling you, these Democrats, I am so done with them. Now, by the way, I'm getting a response. I will just read one response. I will not tell you who this came from. Great at what? Child trafficking? I'm not going there. And yes, I said great, because I think that anyone that preaches and whose mission in life is to try to encourage people to love one another, and that is the sole message, I think that's great. And I think that that's what this world needs. And so part of me is always conflicted too, because it's like, and this is what I was trying to get at before, look, I understand how we, meaning people that think like many of us do, not all of us, many of us do, that look, illegals are illegals. If you are here in the country illegally, go home. We don't think that that's not compassionate. And we know that that sounds harsh to people, but here's the deal. We have to obey the rules. We have to obey the law. We get thrown in jail if we don't follow the rules. If we don't follow the rules and decide we don't want to pay our taxes, we have to deal with the IRS. If we don't follow the rules, we get tossed in jail, and we expect everybody in the country to have to live by the same rules, the same set of laws that we do. And we do not understand how, because a person comes from an impoverished background, comes from an impoverished state, why they are giving a special pass on following the rules. We don't like it. We don't understand it. And even when the churches then tell us that we should turn the blind eye to the rules, then we say, well, then what are you here for? Because the church used to be where people understood the morality behind following the rules, behind following a code of conduct to guide you to a life that you could celebrate morality, doing the right thing. And this is what's so confusing. So, no, we have compassion, and we don't feel like we should be on the defensive and have to say, oh, well, we love people. Of course we love people, but we also love the idea that morality is a good thing and that the rules, the laws of our nation should be followed. And we're not saying we expect everybody to be perfect, because we know human beings are imperfect, all of us. And all of us are going to ultimately have to stand before God, our creator, and justify our own lives. And there's plenty for all of us to look at in our lives and say, you know what? We could have done better. We should have done better. We're not perfect people. We are struggling souls, all of us. We get it. But we do still have this reverence for the law, for the rules. And when you see the institutions that are supposed to be all about that kind of winking and nodding and saying, well, it's okay if they break the rules, that just doesn't sit well with us. That's all I was trying to say. But it doesn't mean that we don't... Look, the Pope said, who am I to judge, when he was talking about homosexuality. I am like the least person that wants to feel like I don't have the wherewithal to judge the Pope. I don't have it. That's not who I am. Don't have it. I'm not trying to do that. That's up to God. And I'm just voicing concerns that I had. There used to be clear definitions of what's right and what's wrong, and they're all getting blurred. And now you have boys running around, young boys thinking that they're girls, young girls thinking that they're boys. What? We look at this and we look in amazement at what used to be solid ground clarity being distorted in some sort of weird relativism. And it is disturbing. Now, I want to play some other things. I talked to you about this. Carlos, let's cut one. So if you were attending a Methodist church, and by the way, I grew up in a Methodist church, which then changed its name to a United Methodist Church. So if you were attending Methodist church in Petersburg, this is what you heard as your sermon, part of your sermon, from Reverend Andy Oliver on Easter Sunday. Go ahead and play it.
In a spirit of solidarity, more than 50 justice-seeking congregations around the country have been lighting a candle of peace, hope, and justice. This candle represents Christ's light shining even in the midst of barbed wire policies that wrap tighter each day. This morning, we light the candle of peace, hope, and justice for all who are being labeled alien enemies and deported, shackled by fear that they will be next, or waiting for news that their loved one is okay. We continue to pray for Kilmore Abrego Garcia, whom the Supreme Court has ordered must be returned home after our government unlawfully kidnapped him to El Salvador. We lift up Arturo Suarez Trejo, who was denied the chance to meet his newborn daughter and instead sent from Texas Detention Center to El Salvador. And we remember the 236 other men living in cage-like conditions in the terrorism confinement center, despite only 32 of them having been convicted of any serious crimes. Scripture tells us that on Good Friday, Jesus promised a thief hanging beside him that they would be together in paradise. Now, while we don't expect paradise from our government, we do expect due process. While we do not need our leaders to emulate the grace of Jesus, we yearn for any official who wears a cross to speak words that mirrored Jesus' mercy and compassion instead of Pontius Pilate's fear and contentment. Jesus declared, "The truth will set you free." So God, make every government official tell the truth. That these detention centers have more in common with concentration camps than with prisons. Because a prison, by definition, operates within a judicial system. A person is arrested, charged, and tried, and if found guilty, sentenced. A concentration camp, on the other hand, functions outside the law. People are detained without a trial, without conviction, held indefinitely, not for what they've done, but for who they are, for their religion, their ethnicity, their politics, or their identity as part of a group deemed a threat. And so we pray not only for justice.
Here you have enough. Here you have this minister, this pastor. Basically, this is just the politicization. This is just pure Trump hate. That's all it is, wrapped up in a homily. You have now them proudly standing with a criminal class of people that murders, rapes, pillages, that's here illegal, that doesn't follow the laws. But what? Let's light a candle and show our allegiance with who? With the criminal, not with the people that are trying to bring order and trying to protect American citizens. Not for any. This entire left movement has lost its mind. They have lost their bearing. All they have to do is say migrant. He's a migrant. He's here illegally. But no, we can't actually say that people that are criminals should be punished. And there is nothing illegal about what Trump is doing, by the way. There is no due process. It is part of it is part of the Constitution that the president has the right to do what he's doing. That is due process. He hasn't been tried. They act like that they don't know who this guy is. He's been in the court system. You don't hear that from this. It's maddening. I wish I could spend an hour with this because on so many levels, this is offensive. And this is what you go to. If I were in that church, I would have walked out. Because this is just disgraceful. That you have to get this one-sided, narrow, political leftist view coming to parishioners on Easter Sunday. It's ridiculous. Then you have in PMSNBC. What we can expect it from them. MSNBC, cut 2. We can't play all of this because we don't have time, but let's just get started with it. Let's just hit it. Mika Brzezinski.
And joining us now, Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen of Maryland. He recently returned from a trip to El Salvador where he met with Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He's also a member of the Foreign Relations Committee. And Senator, Pope Francis's last words, final public remarks, focused on this theme. How much contempt is stirred up at times toward the vulnerable, the marginalized, and migrants, Francis wrote in a papal address delivered on Easter Sunday yesterday by a Vatican aide to the crowds gathered in St. Peter's Square. And here we are, you on, I guess, just back now from El Salvador, dealing with the issue of just one of the many people who have been forcibly removed, disappeared. I mean, some might even see it as a kidnapping. It's definitely not a deportation. Where does the plight of Kilmar Abrego
Okay,
Garcia
enough. I don't even want to
now?
hear Van Hollen. Let's just hold the rest of it till tomorrow, Carlos. That's it. And Pope Francis' last was for the migrants. So there are just migrants. There are no criminal migrants. There are no people that break the law. The rapists, the murderer migrants, well, they're just migrants. They're all just the oppressed people. And it's those evil conservatives that Donald Trump and those people, they're oppressing the poor, the undertrodden, the migrants who are just innocent and virtuous, every one of them. You have no right to get rid of the criminal element out of your society, out of your country that are here illegal because they're migrants and they're virtuous, all of them. We got to take a break. James Golden, Snerdley. I didn't even go on this battle that's going on in the court. There's something happening with the Supreme Court. Alito is unhappy. They rushed out that midnight ruling to stop Donald Trump from deporting more Venezuelans, and they said, and Alito stuff will follow. That it's totally out of character. I don't have time to deal with that today. We can get to that tomorrow. Folks, big things are happening out here. We decided we're just going to play more Prince. James Golden and Snerdley, your call is coming up next. Let's let you weigh in. Whatever you do, don't go away. 800-848-9222.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Ladies, you'll end up shopping for your guy's deodorant, right? So try Degree's Original Cool Rush. You see, last year, Degree changed the formula, and men were mad. One guy even started a petition. So Degree admitted they messed up and brought the Original Cool Rush scent back. It's clean, crisp, and actually smells like someone you want to cuddle. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So toss one in your cart and find out why it's the best-selling men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory.
Clorox Sentiva smells like lavender. Cleans like Clorox. And feels like...
All right, that could go on for a while. Experience the long-lasting freshness of Clorox Sentiva. Available in Clorox Sentiva Lavender Scented Bleach. Use as directed.
Morning decisions. A creamy mocha frappuccino drink? A sweet vanilla? Maybe a smooth caramel? Or that white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Start your day with bottled Starbucks Frappuccino drinks. Pick up a bottle near you wherever you buy your groceries.
This podcast is supported by Progressive, a leader in RV insurance. RVs are for sharing adventures with family, friends, and even your pets. So if you bring your cats and dogs along for the ride, you'll want Progressive RV Insurance. They protect your cats and dogs like family by offering up to $1,000 in optional coverage for vet bills in case of an RV accident, making it a great companion for the responsible pet owner who loves to travel. See Progressive's other benefits and more when you quote RV Insurance at Progressive.com today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Pet injury is an additional coverage and subject to policy terms.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Prince brings us back. You know, there was a story Diana, Princess Di, called a few weeks ago about how China's trying to make nice to everybody. I saw that today. She's always ahead of the curve, I got to tell you. Prince Day today, but also it's time to check in with some calls.
James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley, presents Rapid Phones.
Let's start with Mary in Morristown, New Jersey. Good afternoon, Mary. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's Mary Grace. It's nice to talk to you again, Bo. Listen,
thank you, Mary Grace.
The Pope was a great man, and by all estimations, not a bad anything about him. However, there is that confusion that you were talking about, that you articulated, when you have the cardinals below maybe not doing the morality and then cover-ups. So you have the goodness in the Catholic Church, and then you have the not. And bringing it all out in the open is for the best. And we love you.
Thank you. And I think I did a poor job of articulating it. I'm going to try it again. Tomorrow's a little bit distracted today. Have some technical issues that I'm dealing with. Ray in Putnam County. Thank you. How are you, Ray?
I'm great, Bo. And I just want to tell you, you did a great job articulating as you got more involved in the conversation. I know where you're coming from, but, you know, and God rest this Pope's soul. He was a wonderful man, but I was not a fan, or I am not a fan, of his politics. He shouldn't be getting in politics. And that really worries me, because I don't know the next Pope, because Pope Benedict basically appointed him cardinal, and I don't know where we're going with this. You know, if it's going to get crazier, because my wife and I, we watched that movie Conclave, and this scares me. This really scares me.
I saw another movie called Pope. It was just, it was actually a thrilling movie. Look, we're not going to know till the white smoke comes out what's next. And then the speculation is going to be, and even then we won't know. But Ray, I'm so happy you called. I want to check in with Boca Raton, the 6th borough of New York, as it's known. And Lisa, welcome. How are you?
I agree. I think you articulated it. I think you're fantastic. I listen to you every day. You inspire me. I just want to start with that. But this Pope was a very big disappointment. I did not think he was great. I thought he was very marginal. And the biggest thing was that he had a big chance to improve relations with Israel, with the Jewish people, and especially after October 7th, and he was silent. And I just found him a very big disappointment, really.
Well, I did read that the Pope did make some remarks on and especially on what was going on in Gaza. So I'm going to have to go back and look, Lisa, and see exactly what he did or did not say regarding October 7th. But look, can we not all agree that his call for love, which he spent a lot of time with, is still the universal message that we expect from any pope? Anyway, we got to go, folks. May God bless and protect each and every single one of you, your families, your loved ones. Love and gratitude, my friends, for your being here with me. Allowing me to be with you. God willing, we're back tomorrow for the Tuesday edition of Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. Until then, my friends, I bid you adieu. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. You can hear Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour weekdays at 4 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder,
what the heck is going on here?